manual's good.
Yeah, it's
a
great.
good transmission. Welcome to TTC Cars. I'm Brian.
I'm Craig.
And today we've got something special and controversial for all you keyboard warriors out there. It's a 23 BMW M2. Gone is the old N55 inline 6, and coming with it is the S58, which we'll talk about more in a minute. But along with that is a completely different chassis and a lot of different styling that people seem to hate. I don't love it either, but Craig doesn't seem to care, so we'll get into that in a minute. But let's get to the nose first of all. I call this the Minecraft car, and the reason why I say that is this grille looks really blocky. Same thing down here for these inlets. All the old car had squared out inlets too, so it's definitely an evolution of the previous car. You do have a ton of cooling on the front end. It's all purposeful. It's all BMW there for a reason. In fact, the styling of old Beamers have been very clean and very simple because it's all it needed to be. Craig makes a good point that this is probably the more styled car that BMW has done in a long time. It's true. You've got the bulge on the hood. You've got the LED treatment in the lights, and I love the logo. Look at the logo right now. This is the anniversary edition for the M program entirely. So it looks really cool. Lots of lines. There's not any flat spots on this thing, and that's part of its appeal. So let's come around and check out wheels and tires, because that's really important too. These guys up front are 19s. They are 275 3519 Pilot Sport 4Ss. They have plenty of grip. They are a quiet tire, one of our favorite performance car tires. With a 300 tread wear, it's going to last long enough. That's all I'm going to say with that. Up front, you do also have 6 piston brakes, vented hats, really thick rotors, and they're cross-drilled. These brakes are incredibly, incredibly good. Some of the best brakes we've ever tested on the show. Very happy with that. Now, out back, let's check out those wheels real quick because they are 20-inch wheels. So out back, very similar to the front, but a staggered setup. So you've got a 285 30 20. So it's a little bit wider and a little bit taller wheel. The rolling height is the same as the front though. Out back, as far as brakes, you still get the vented hat. You still get the thick cross-drilled rotors, not slotted, but cross-drilled for heating. But you have a floating caliper design. They are powder coated the same color as the 6 pistons out front, but it's not a 4-piston monoblock. But you know what, it's plenty. We'll talk about weight in a minute, but these things get it done for that. Now, on profile, I do want to point something out. For a car that looks so blocky and squared out, you still have an arc to the roof. This is one of those cars that when you look on the internet, you go, ugh, that looks terrible. That made it worse. Ugh. You get all angry and you start typing. But in person, you start to realize that every surface has a treatment. And it's one of those situations where the sum of its attributes aren't great, but individually, there's a lot of goodness going on here. Now, we have a carbon package with this, which means carbon fiber bits inside. It means carbon roof. And it also means really expensive, not comfortable for daily driving seats. More on that in a minute. Craig will cover that shortly. Coming up back, the blockiness continues. You've got blocks here. You've got straight lines there, but you have nice round quad tips. My only complaint here, Craig, is that the exhaust doesn't sound that great. It sounds fine. In fact, let's hear that real quick. Okay, that's not bad, but look, the S58 is kind of known for not being as good sounding as the B58. Let's pop up front, I'll tell you what. Ladies and gents, let's check out the piece de resistance. Oh, hood struts, thank you Germany for that. And bracing everywhere. You've got a big kind of boomerang one in the front, one across the top, and this chassis is incredibly rigid, and that's partially why. Now, why does it not sound as good as the B58 to most people? That's because this is a twin turbo, not a single twin scroll turbo, like you find on the Toyota Supra and other, the 2 Series, the non-M cars. Because you have 2 turbos, there's a lot less exhaust noise coming out. They are naturally muffling a bunch of sound. That's why. But the reason why this is the S Series, because it's an M motor, that's a part of the linearity. The other thing is the difference between this and the B58, they're both closed deck blocks, which is really important for high boost scenarios. This is actually a de-stroked and bored out configuration, just slightly from the B58. Keeps the same displacement, but it's very close. The difference here is that it's meant to rev out more. So the red line's 72, and the power delivery is peakier. The compression ratio is also dropped from 11.5 to 1 to 9.3. So that means this thing is really leaning on turbo all the time, and that really comes to show when we drive this, which we'll talk about more in a minute. So all that covered, let's hop in the interior and see what Craig has to say.
All right, Brian, let's see if the Minecraft theme continues in the interior of the 2023 M2. But before we get there, Brian, you see this right here? We'll get back to this later, but I think this number right here is something to talk about and maybe the biggest problem with this car. But let's go on. So plenty actually of room. Here's the theme of this car. You get lots of performance and lots of capability, but you get lots of practicality. That's a very roomy trunk. You can fold the seats down. You can load a lot of stuff in here. It's not a hatchback, but that's very usable space. Also, Brian, if you're on the side of the road and you need assistance, BMW used to give you a nice little toolkit. It was pretty cool.
Toolkit right here.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. But here, you just call them at 1-800 number for teleservice. And in case you're on the front of the car with your S58 and you got a problem, you just take this off.
Oh, okay.
And you can take it with you. Okay, so that's what that's for.
All right.
So I wanted to make sure everybody knew about that.
What's that paper there?
And then back here, Brian, this is an inspection in Scottsdale when they imported this car to North America. And basically, looks like maybe some Germans down in Mexico approved this thing.
Wait, Mexico?
Yeah, I said Mexico because, Brian, this is a 3-VIN car, which means it's made in Mexico. That's its final assembly point. Yes, you're buying a German machine made in Mexico. It's okay. It's a global car. It's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Let's check out the back seat. Time to get in the back seat. You just pull this little lever here, and it automatically folds forward.
That works.
Pretty convenient.
These are really pretty.
So now I get in the back, and believe it or not, you're not going to believe this. Let me see this. You actually get climate control back here. So I can actually adjust the temperature, auto, where I want it to go, and I got vents that I can open and close them.
Wait, there's controls?
Yes.
This is 3-zone?
This is a 3-zone climate control car. I don't get an armrest. I just get this little slot here.
You do?
Oh, I do? Oh, hang on, my bad. I get a...
Oh, that's a pass-through.
Well, I get a pass-through. But so if you're smuggling something or storing something, you can get it in the back.
Sure. Skis, Craig.
Skis. And you know, I've got some headroom. It kind of runs out in a hurry. Brian, just get in here. Let's see what happens.
No.
Yeah, get in here. Come on.
Oh, no.
You gotta do it.
That was not a planned bit. That was just bad news for me. Okay, so the seats only go so far forward.
Yes.
To get in. And then once you're in, it's incredibly uncomfortable.
You're fine. Yeah, it's good.
Oh,
is there? No, never mind it. Don't worry about that. I want to show you something. Look at this over here. Pull this over.
I can't reach it.
But look at this. No, you don't need to buckle.
Oh,
look at that.
That's got to be 50 horse. No question.
That's helping you out even in the back seat. That's pretty amazing.
Look at these things.
And then when you sit back here, when you do pull the seat back, okay. Here we go.
I wish you luck.
Let's see what happens. I'm running out of room. Oh, not so bad, but look, I get this. I'm sitting behind Brian. He's 6'4", I'm 5'9". I've got some room, and I've got this beautiful carbon fiber to basically stare at the entire time, so I don't throw up when he's driving. But I can also give him a nice little back massage, or
that's for harnesses,
or tickle his little handles right here. So okay.
Also, what's that texture?
Yeah,
nice attention to detail.
So let's get to the business end and see what happens up there. Let's talk about these seats. These seats, Brian, are part of the carbon fiber package, which is, what'd you say, $10,000?
$10,000.
$10,000 option here.
Gives you that bit of carbon, and the carbon roof.
Which I'm sure saves some weight, and this car needs that, more of that on the drive. But what happens is these seats, Brian, they look cool. I'm going to tell you, this is one of the cooler looking seats I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But this bolster right here, that bolster right in front, what that's going to do is that's going to violate you. Every time you get in and out of the car, there's no good way to do it. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to get in, and I am immediately violated in spots I don't want to be violated. So, but then I get in. Okay, now I'm in. Okay. So here's what happens. So this right here, this is sitting in between my legs, and it feels like I'm holding my cell phone the whole time or something, but my legs are going to go there. I can't go here or there or anywhere else, and the bolsters are right up against me. Probably great for track use, but daily driving, this is the position you're going to be in, and that's just going to be it, and you're not going to be comfortable. In fact, Brian, you're a little bit bigger boned than I am. I'm sure we could all go on diets, but that's not the issue here. Your bones are physically wider than these bolsters.
Yeah, it's a frame problem. Like the first couple of days, my rectum was not touching the leather right here. So I think I've kind of like morphed my body around it, but it's not. I gotta like wedge myself between these to make it happen.
Also means you don't get heated seats or ventilated seats.
Right, but you do get a big air pocket right here.
Look, that part's fine.
My kids did love tickling me while I was driving. So
very good. Okay, let's move on to the infotainment, because there is some cool infotainment stuff going on here. You can adjust some of the things in here with these modes. You can select through, toggle, and get different information, lap timers, trip data, lane keep, all that fun stuff, your map, what settings you have it on. That's pretty cool and convenient and helpful. And then you get over here, the controversial. This whole thing to me is controversial, and the reason is because everything's going the same now, and you're losing some originality. If you get the new Mustang, if you get a Mercedes, if you get a Kia, if you get an
Hyundai.
EV, if you get a Hyundai, if you get a BMW, they all have this dual panel touchscreen digital layout, which I guess is convenient and works, but it's just boring. So, okay, but let's get into some of the modes here. You get a lot of cool things. It looks like
there's a lot in there.
there's a lot going on, a lot of icons, all at the same. And it's really hard to tell what's what when you're driving, but I do like they separate. You can go to all apps, and it's got everything mixed in together. You can go to infotainment apps, which is just CarPlay and other things, and then you get just vehicle-specific apps. What's really cool about when you go to all apps, when you get through some of these, if I had CarPlay on, it tells you this app's on CarPlay or it's not on CarPlay. That's pretty cool. So that's handy. And you get a drift analyzer. That's
dangerous.
That's dangerous. Only do that on track mode only. But you get some really cool things, and the native nav works well. The coolest thing though, Brian, is probably if I hit this button here, let's say, roll down passenger window.
Try it once more.
Roll down passenger window.
Please prepare the vehicle to be ready to drive.
Well, what I'm trying to say, Brian, is
I'm leaving all that in, by the way.
we've complained before about voice control not doing a lot of things. When you're actually driving this car, if you hit the voice control button, and you can tell it to change the temperature, you can tell it to roll down the windows, and it actually does it. That's kind of cool. Some pretty cool tech, and people buy it for that. That's neat.
You've forgotten the most important part, Craig.
Oh, yeah. This might be the most important part, Brian, because, well, we'll talk about on the drive, whether that's good or bad, but I think it's good because it actually needs you for something to actually move this car, because this car is so competent and so capable. Bad news is, this is probably slowly going away, even in BMW.
But for now, take that AI. Let's go drive it.
All right, Brian, we're in the 2023 controversial BMW M2.
Minecraft car?
All those things we've talked about previously don't matter because it's still got power. Let's see it.
Lots of it. About 2500 is a good launch spot. On the street, wheel hop like crazy, and we're off to the races.
We're already there. I didn't even get that one so quick. Oh, here we go. 4.74.
4.74.
4.74 with me in it.
Not bad. So off camera, the best I was able to do is 4.38, which is pretty damn good for a manual transmission.
Correct. I think the auto was 3.9.
3.9 according to BMW.
Yeah.
And look, we know the ZF8 speed is kind of like the life hack for ICE engines. And the B58 and the ZF8 speed is one of the best powertrain combinations on the planet. You brought that up off camera. It's a really good, compelling thing. S58 with the manual from the Supra, or the Supra gets a manual from the, depends how you look at it, still is very good for a low 4-second to 60 with a dusty street. We are not on a prep surface, so Motor Trend's going to best that probably, but not by a whole lot.
No.
So let's talk about ride and drive real quick. And this is one of the things I want to get into. We need to cover some groundwork. The M4/M3 is 3,800 pounds. This is 3,800 pounds. In fact, this model, now the non-carbon, this is probably a little lighter, but the regular M2 versus a regular M3, M4 is 16 pounds apart.
That's too close.
It's too close.
And that gets back to my problem with that number on the back.
Okay, get into that.
If it didn't say 2, I think a lot more journalists would have less problems with this.
Fair.
I think we hear and we see M2 and we're like, oh, it's gonna be light and nimble track fighter, and it's still gonna be really good on track, don't get me wrong.
It's still a track fighter.
But the nimbleness and lightness is not there.
Not on the street at least.
No, this is an old M3, M4 size car now. It's bigger, longer, lower, and wider, which gives it looks and capability.
It's heavier than the V8 E92 M3.
Yeah.
Like, that's a problem.
Right.
Okay, so let's get into the issues with that. The wheelbase is still a little shorter than the M3 and M4, but it's longer than the old M2.
Right.
And it's 400 pounds heavier than the last, I'm sorry, 500 pounds heavier than the last M2.
Right.
You noticed that.
Absolutely.
And the whole time driving this, I'm going, oh, this feels exactly like the M4 we had last year, except that it's a little less interior space, and it doesn't have all-wheel drive in the auto.
Right.
Which I do prefer this still.
You need it for something. It's nice.
You need it for something. It's nice. I like running the gears. It is nice. It's a good manual. I think the transmission.
It's a good manual.
Fine. The issue is that I know this engine's strong point is with the 8-speed auto.
Yes.
And so the B58, which we've driven with the manual, has a better mid-range.
Agreed.
It's more guttural and it sounds a lot better. This is very peaky in the way that it delivers power. It has lower compression, which means it leans on turbos. So below about 3,500, nobody's home, dude.
It's kind of asleep.
Kind of asleep.
Yeah.
And the 8-speed hides that.
Yeah.
The 6-speed manual makes it very apparent and makes it feel slower than it is. This thing's a rocket ship. It's not slow.
Right.
But around town, it feels kind of dead. The general takeaway is that it's not playful enough.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I keep thinking about the Supra, the Mach 1,
Yes.
those cars that have a little more personality. This car is very capable and extremely fast and make you feel like a hero because it's quick.
It's very fast.
But it's just a little boring, even when you're doing cool stuff.
Well, and even when you're doing cool stuff, you do high-speed runs and you're like, yeah, they'll do this all day long. The problem is around town, it's incredibly boring. Like a Coyote Mustang or a Camaro SS1LE around town has enough burble and pop from the V8. You're like, yeah, there's charm at low speed, right? This doesn't have any of that. Miatas are charming everywhere. I'm not saying this needs to be a Miata, but I'm saying
the Supra is way more engaging and charming.
Yes. Okay, that's the biggest thing. You brought this up earlier. The Supra has what I call the GR treatment, and that its driver's inputs are really, really dialed and engaged, and you feel more part of it than you do here. This feels a little more muted.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing. And then the limits, it's gripped up almost too much.
Yeah.
So like it's rear-wheel drive. You can't play on the street unless it's wet outside. Like it's just, by the time it loses grip, you're into the tree. It's too much.
Buy this and put smaller wheels and worse tires on it.
Put
Cheapos on it.
Put all seasons
Put some all seasons on it, and you might have fun.
And you're set. And that's where the Supra's a little more playful.
Exactly.
So with all the BMW people upset, we've compared it to a Toyota,
a Mustang.
a Mustang. Well, hang on price. That's real.
They're right there.
They're the same. They're
really
low
are.
60s. You can get a loaded out Mach 1 Mustang right in that neighborhood.
Yep.
Camaro SS1LE or ZL1 is in that neighborhood.
Yep.
Like, I'm sorry, that's the real game changer there.
I agree.
That's probably going to.
Although they're going to quit making it.
I know. That's
So,
true.
At least they're
So,
still making this.
Anything else?
Yes. Last thing I want to leave you with.
Okay.
A biggest question. I haven't prepped you for this. Beamer or Bummer?
Oh, Beamer.
I agree.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Everybody quit complaining. This car's awesome.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's not, and also not Bimmer. It's Beamer. I hear Bimmer all the time. It's kind of like Nitto tires and Nitto tires. It's Nitto tires. All right.
Yep. Agreed. It's a winner.
Right.
Quit complaining. It's an awesome car.
Thanks for coming for the linguistics lesson, and we'll see you next time. Good job, Beamer.